Well, good morning to everyone. Good Monday morning. It may be warm, but it's wet, wet and warm. Would that be the case in your instance, Pat?
Absolutely. Do you know thing? It seems to be clearing up a wee bit now. This morning it was at about 7 o'clock. Must be someone outside the window, and I could hear the rain bouncing off it. You
And it's
know,
sort
and
of,
was go
it's
ahead.
sort of chilly. Maybe I'm imagining things, but I
I,
was
no,
looking. The
I
temperature
was.
was 20, and I was shivering.
We were myself and my dear missus were up in Derry yesterday up at the gas there. My friend Jeremy Corbin and Len McCluskey were over doing. They have launched a poetry book um, that for charity, where the proceeds are going to some sort of human rights organisation. But they were doing a sort of whistle stop tour of
Who's
Ireland,
doing
and
this,
they were
Pat? Who's doing this?
Jeremy Corbyn and Len McCluskey. Remember
Wow.
the trade union
Oh
leader?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And by the way, it was very, very good. I have to say that. And there was a good crowd at it.
Who
Now,
wrote who wrote the poetry?
it's selected poetry. It's like an anthology of their favorite poems.
All
You know,
right. Very
it's very
good.
good. Some
Very
very good
good.
ones, and some I haven't come across before. And it's they clearly love a lot of Irish poets, but there's a lot of new stuff in it as well. And I think Jeremy Corbyn, and I'm open to correction on this, I think he has one of his own poems that he wrote on a train on the way home one night.
Not
By the way,
interesting.
one other thing about Corbyn was because Corbyn, I think, has very few academic official or qualifications. They don't realize that he is actually a very academic person. His mother and father, I think, were both university lecturers. He was brought up in a house apparently where there was books everywhere, and he was a voracious reader and so on. But apparently he wasn't all that interested. He was highly academic, but he wasn't interested in an academic life. Isn't that, that's I remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, he's got no academic background," as if that meant something. Like some of the best leaders in the world. As far as I remember, Abraham Lincoln didn't have an
Yeah.
academic background either. So
Yeah.
let's drop that
Yeah.
crap.
Well,
Anyway,
that's very
that's
good. Was there many? Was it
when I
an
want to
event?
start. Sorry, what are you saying?
Was it an event that you were at, Pat?
I myself and my dear missus went up to it yesterday.
Oh, very
But what
good.
I started out just to tell you, Jude, it was torrential rain. We had to
Hmm.
walk over to it, and we met a friend there, and we went for a wee cup of coffee afterwards. And we because of parking, we just left the car where it was. But geez, Jude, by the time we got back, we were both soaked to the skin, and I mean soaked to the skin. It was
Yeah.
torrential.
Yeah. I was at an event yesterday afternoon too. Rita O'Hare, a book written by her. It's actually cobbled together from writings that she did at a terrible time trying to get. Do you know Rita O'Hare?
I did, yeah, yeah, yeah.
She was the Sinn Féin sort of representative in the States for many years.
Many years.
And what's his name? Jesus, after when you can't think of names. Uh, the revolutionary leader in South Africa who led.
Nelson Mandela.
Yes. Oh, oh
Jesus,
yes,
a
that's a hard
senior
name to
moment there,
remember.
Dr. Collins.
That's a hard name to remember. Anyway, Nelson Mandela referred to her as my little revolutionary. She was really small. You see photographs in the book of her, and she was no size at all. And apparently, Pat, she shared one of your qualities:
What was that?
foul language. Foul, foul language.
Language.
In the drop of a hat. And she'll find out, guys would say, "Oh, I don't like that particular word," and you would say the initial letter, and she then not point out, she would pepper her speech with that word.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we
By
go
the way,
to.
did they say that if you use expletives and foul language, it's a sign of intelligence? In that case, just call me Einstein.
I, well, if that's a sign of intelligence, I don't give a fuck.
Anyway,
Okay,
Jude, by the way, here, before we start,
right.
I believe you're having real problems in the occupied territories getting Irish television,
Oh
RTE.
God, oh God. The last week or so has taken years off my life. When I go to RTE2 to be precise, it tells me this program is not available in your area or words to that effect. And as a result, I've got to go to BBC One, which is doing round the clock, just steady Olympics.
Mm.
And they do it very well. To be given them credit, they do it well. And most of the anchor people and the commentators are very good.
Yeah.
But isn't it outrageous that the people in the north should, well, you're actually just across the border and you're getting it, and I'm
Yeah.
in the north and I'm not getting it. It's just, it says it's all these people say, it's got to do with the rights. The
Yeah.
deal has been done with whoever's doing the broadcasting, that you can air this in your area, you can't air it in this area. Yeah, that's true. Of course, I understand that. But it's perfectly possible at the same time for RTE to come to some arrangement, some deal whereby the North will be covered. I mean, they were able to sort that out in terms of the terms of Brexit, where you
Yeah.
had the North was able to trade in UK and to be accessible to the rest of Ireland and the EU. So if they could do that, why the hell can't they do the Olympics? I'll tell you something. To my mind, there's a touch of partitionism at work there. There's a laziness, there's a touch of partitionism. Will not bother because those buggers up there, they've been served by BBC anyway. You think?
But here's the other thing, Jude. I presume there was no problem prior to Brexit.
Well, it's not. That's a good question. Brexit is so long ago now, I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I do know that.
But hold on, weren't you at one stage? Weren't you able to get RT?
Oh, I can get RT all the time. I get RT all the time, but it depends on what. If there's a sporting event on, if there's an international, for example, if the Republic of Ireland is playing, and if that is also available on Sky,
you can't get
Sky
it.
Channel, Sky Sports. I can get it on Sky Sports with the Sky Sports commentators, but I can't get it on RTE.
RTE, yeah. I don't know, and I really genuinely don't understand that. I really don't, because that issue doesn't arise here at all.
I think it's
put it less. I haven't come across it anyway.
It's a cheapness, laziness, and partitionist. That's what it is. And I think of the three, the most powerful is partitionist. They really want people to think of us as being separate. It really is a deep insult. I mean, I know that sounds very high and mighty, but it is a bloody insult. You know, you'd be Irish and you would ask, and then they would say, "Oh, you don't have to pay the license fee." Sure, half the bloody South isn't paying the license fee anyway.
Fee either, exactly.
And, in any case, I'd be perfectly willing to pay the license fee if I was getting full access to RTE. Anyway, that's my rant for the
By the way,
day.
just now we're on this subject, we won two more medals. Rhys McClanahan won the pommel horse, and we didn't win, and we won a bronze muffin and the 1500 meters. So okay. I presume what do you call it, the Northern Ireland the Ben Lowrys and the Jimmy Brysons, and they'll all be claiming that they're actually British.
Well, they are actually. That's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, "Oh, and there's another success for Northern Ireland, and here it is." You know, actually, it's kind of interesting to notice, despite the fact that they all are waving the tricolour, the subtle way in which people, the commentators, find letting you know which foot the guy kicks with, even though he won't be kicking at all. You know, saying what school he went to, or
whatever,
or what the parish priest said in terms of what he said. It seems so piddling and petty, and it's a glorious thing to see people competing for Ireland, regardless of which bloody foot they kick with.
Jude, here's the way I look at it. If you're born on the island of Ireland, if you're raised on the island of Ireland, and you know, this sort of trying to sort of say that either you represent Britain or you represent the Republic. You know, people like Rhys McClanahan and Whiffen and whoever else, I can't even remember. You know, some of the runners, they're coming. What do you call the wee girl? Ciara McGeehan.
Yes,
she's from at Island McGee or somewhere she's from. You know, and all the rest. Look, you know, they're people born on the island of Ireland. You know, so what's the problem?
Incidentally, you said if you're born on the island of Ireland, you're Irish. I think that's not true. Didn't the government about 6-10
years
exactly change things so that
changed that because of you were an Irish? The asylum seekers, they sort of you were entitled to Irish citizenship years ago if you were born on the island of Ireland. but they were reckoning that I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the influx of pregnant women coming into Ireland and then having a child here so that they couldn't be thrown out. I don't know. Dude, it must have been something.
That's what I suspected too. But I mean, the number of people who must have been doing that can't have been all that many.
Can't have been exactly.
You know, how many pregnant women?
There was hardly hordes of pregnant women, were there?
Yeah. And again, that would come down to this question of attitudes to immigrants. So let's talk about attitudes to immigrants. In the last, week, there's been an enormous amount of violence in Britain and in the south, in Culloch, and in the north, in Belfast. These guys attacking and burning places that are used by immigrants or just by people who have immigrated years ago, maybe, and have set up business. There was businesses destroyed yesterday in Belfast by guys who quite clearly have been living here for years.
Yeah,
they're now saying, I can't go on. I can't keep it. I just have to close down. How do you react to that, Pat? What do you...
Really, really badly, Jude. There was Jamie Bryson. In fact, about 10 minutes ago, I was just waiting for you to come on air. I happened to be on Twitter or X or whatever the hell they call it these days, and Jamie Bryson saying Britain is exploding, and it's the multiculturalism is an experiment by the elite to foist foreigners on hardworking local communities, and it doesn't work, etc., etc. And I thought, what a load of absolute bollocks. You know, Jude, here's the thing. See that man you were talking about? I saw on Saturday too. There was a guy, a restaurant had been burned out, and he spoke with a foreign accent, but he had a Northern Ireland accent. If you know what I mean, it's that sort of rare mix.
Yeah,
right. And he said he had a business going for, what was it, 15 years. He had never done anybody any harm. He was paying his taxes. He had never been in any trouble. In fact, he was given employment, and he seemed to have a lot of support. Now, Jude, I don't see any I have no problem with people like that, none whatsoever. And a lot of this is far right racism. It's as simple as that, Jude. It's nothing to do what these people are doing. What about the wee family? Was it somewhere in Ballykelly? Get out of here. They've done nothing wrong. It was the color of their skin. And Jeremy Corbyn made the point yesterday, that there's a sort of an agenda out there now, a sort of culture war. And remember, they even did the wee girl, the Algerian girl who was supposed to have XY chromosomes and all that sort of stuff. There seems to be a group of people whose agenda seems to be intolerance, division, stirring racism, all the rest of it. I don't know what it's about, but Jude, I genuinely think that a lot of this, is just down to the color of the people's skin, and that's it.
Yeah, it's bigotry, pure and simple, not pure and simple, impure and simple bigotry. But the question is, why this explosion of violence against them now? Like all throughout Britain and all throughout Ireland, north and south, there's been these. I mean, it's serious rioting. It's rioting to the point where they're setting fire to buildings, setting fire to police cars, setting fire to anything else they can get their hands on. Why this sudden upsurge? And how come they're getting so many people to support their thinking?
Well, let me tell you, and it's purely anecdotal, and there's no evidence. But my son, we're just chatting the other day. The eldest guy, he went to university in London, and he was there about 20 years ago. And he said London back then and England back then was sort of, he got the impression of wealth and, progression and all the rest of it. He says the streets were clean, there were building, and there was a vibrancy. He was back there during the summer, and he said, gee, he says, that changes. He says, a lot of streets are run down. There's graffiti everywhere. He says, the whole place, they travel, they're up as far as Cornwall, I think, and all the rest. And he says, the dirt, he says, the decay and the decline and all the rest of it. And he puts a lot of, he says, I have come to this conclusion that 14 years of Tory austerity, that the poor are getting so poor, and the lack of service. Dude, there's shit in their water. The transport doesn't work. Their hospitals are overrun. Their schools are overrun. And a lot of it's not to do with the guys coming on boats. A lot of it's to do with the fact that there's been a total lack of investment and profit taking at the same time. The guys who run the transports, if you check it out, they have made billions. and the rail service now is costing a fortune, and it's the most inefficient in Europe. Some of the water service, some of the water now apparently is it's not fit for human consumption. So would somebody tell me, is that ideological, or is that political, or is it some sort of, are these things not decisions made by people and affecting the majority?
Yeah, they're getting away with it anyway. That's the main thing. But I think you've touched on the reason I asked the question: why this outburst of these people now? And the answer is that many of them feel they look around and they see society degrading all around them.
Yeah.
Services of all kinds in a mess, and they get angry and they want to find somebody to blame. And they say, "I can't get a house. I can't get an appointment. I can't get my kid in a school."
Yeah.
Why? Oh, there's a bunch of these immigrants coming in. So some smart guys tell them then, you can see, I'll just make it obviously 1 + 1 = 2. These guys are coming in, they're taking our jobs, they're threatening our women, they're the devil incarnate. And for idiotic fools, listen to them. And then go to work attacking innocent people who are immigrants and who are actually providing, I was going to say, are decent citizens. They're providing a very important service, whether it's a health service or whether it's a commercial little business. They're helping us by being part of our society. And sort of the cheek of these guys, yobs who couldn't think straight for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Insisting that they are better and they're going to get rid of these guys. They're going to purify our society. I think it's disgusting. But I would blame the government, because the government hasn't explained things clearly. They should be able to explain. Say, look, we're taking in a number of people. This is the rate that they're coming in. And I've said all this before. These are the criteria we're using, and this is what effect they're having on the health service, say. This is the effect they're having on the education service, so on. Why not do that and let people see the truth? It's because rumors just grow, and as a result, you have people being threatened and burnt.
Yeah, Jeremy Corbyn yesterday at that function in Derry made reference to the fact, about the old Irish, no dogs, no Irish, no blacks type thing, and he said, in Islington, he says, the Irish and the Caribbean had made such a massive contribution, he says, to the local communities. He says, anybody wants to come there, he says, they can see the vibrancy of the community and so on. And Jude, that's the thing. When the Irish went to places at the start, they were looked down upon as well. And by the way, have you ever read some of when the Irish went to New York, and they brought disease and famine and all this sort of stuff, and they were probably the most successful ethnic group. Well, maybe the Jews might have been more financially more so, but if you look at socially and politically, the Irish have massive contribution to America. And I think at the bottom of the sort of social pile, they don't attack the rich who are causing the problem. These guys always attack somebody below them.
Oh yeah, that's always that. Maybe that's something in human nature. If you're at the bottom of the heap, you look around for somebody else you can look down on, and whoever happens to be handy, you use them. I wonder. I just thought, I think, is there a particular kind of racism within Irish people, or is that just human nature? Because the same thing happens in England. Do you think?
Jude, you see, here's the thing. When I was growing up, we were almost a totally homogenous society. I grew up in we were, well, hey, the only difference was we were all white. And I would say back then, about 90% of us were Catholic. The other 10% were Protestant. But we were all white, and by and large, you couldn't tell the difference who was who. If you didn't know somebody, you wouldn't know whether Catholic was. That was the level of, So now suddenly you walk, and I've said this to you a million times before. Walk down the street in Letterkenny now, and sit up. It's so they started referring to it as Letterkenya. Because there's so many African people there.
Yeah.
Now, to the other side of the story, I was at a hospital appointment a couple of months ago, and I was chatting to one of the doctors here, a very nice guy, a native Irish guy, and we're just that whole subject about people, coming in, immigrants. He said, and the way he put it, and he was not in the least bit, he says, if our brown-skinned friends pulled out of the medical service in Ireland and Britain in the morning, he says, we would be in deep, deep doo-doo.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what people keep forgetting. I also think, that this thing about racism, there is a racism and a contempt for difference in all
Yeah,
of us, Uh, and we've no problem with it as long as the people that are different from us are in a small minority. Now, you said, Letterkenny used to be 100% white. I remember as a kid, an Indian guy coming to the door on his bicycle with his
yeah,
head in a turban and explaining why he wore the turban and so on, and trying to sell us. I remember my mother buying what appeared to be a silk scarf from him. Uh,
yeah,
but those people existed, and there were Chinese restaurants and so on,
yeah,
and there was no problem because there wasn't too many of them. And that was
yeah,
the same with the Catholics in the north
yeah,
when they were the nice wee one-third minority and in control, fine. But when they began to expand and asked to be treated like everybody else, that's when the problems began. And I can't help but think that that isn't somewhere in the mix with regard to immigrants. There's
uh,
so many of them now, and people are saying, "Oh, geez." I mean, if there was just a few, well, of course we'd welcome them. But now they're overwhelming. These hordes are overwhelming our whole system. And Trump, of course, is doing the same thing. I kind of talk in America. So
mm,
I think there's something nasty in human beings and their guts that drags them towards racism and prejudice. And it's only when you can sort of firmly establish, look, you have to be treating people as equals. You're not allowed to do it the other way around.
yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
only when it's set up from like that they'll begin to see and talk sense and act sensibly, because
yeah,
that's the way it was in Northern Ireland. We could have
absolutely.
been anywhere until people said, "No, we're not putting up with this anymore." And a lot of
Yeah,
blood was shed, but by God, finally, people are convinced we have to treat these guys as our equals, and maybe even try to persuade them about our way of life being better.
yeah. Well, I think it was John Hume's the anniversary of his death was fourth anniversary. I think was yesterday.
Yeah,
And you know as well as I do, Hume used to ad infinitum, ad nauseum. But he had the same speech, the single transferable speech. But remember, he said the essence of all conflict was difference. If you boil it down, the very essence of all conflict was difference. And he said, and yet he says difference was what should be celebrated rather than sort of what would you say, antagonize
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
And Jude, that still holds true. If we all look the same and acted the same, it'd be a very boring world. Difference actually can be something we should celebrate.
Hmm. Right. So let's move on to another topic, Pat. Uh, do you want to talk about the Olympics?
Well, we sort of had a go at that
I
already.
had, but it seems to have
I've
developed
been
since then.
I've been watching the Olympics. In fact, my wife is bored shitless at this stage. Every night I'm sitting in front of the television. Jude, see the standards. This time around. I don't normally get involved in the swimming because I'm not that big, but even it was fascinating.
It was.
There's this girl, American girl, Ledecky. She's now equal to, I think, as in Mark Spitzer, Michael Phillips.
Yeah.
Records. I think she's won 15 medals or something. Then there's a French guy, the Marchand. He came in and he's won 4 gold medals, and then some, and Adam Peaty. He was, now in fairness, the fella got COVID during the middle, so I'd say that affected. Britain didn't do all that great in the swimming, and then of course Ireland, the wee girl, what's her name? Can't remember. She's from Sligo. Her name's gone totally out of my head. And then there was Daniel Whiffen. I know that, and then there was the Irish guys that won the rowing on Friday, won gold medal. So Ireland's having a very, very successful Olympics. Jude, when you consider the fact that the population of Ireland is the Republic is considerably less than the population of London, it's quite an achievement.
Oh, it's fantastic. But tell you, Pat, how did you feel whenever Whiffen got the bronze rather than the gold you predicted?
I was sort of disappointed in a way. I've got to admit,
Oh,
because
I
I
was
thought
very
I
disappointed.
thought he was I thought he was sort of nailed on because
Yeah,
he was so dominant in the 800. But hey, that's the way life goes.
yeah. I must say he accepted it very gracefully. He
Yeah,
was interviewed and he said, "Yeah, I thought it would, but I said bronze is a bronze, and I have
yeah,
a gold at home anyway, and
yeah,
that's good." I just
yeah,
nothing became him so much as conceding defeat and that.
Yeah, and that tells a lot about your character.
Yeah.
To come away from your first Olympic Games with a gold medal and a bronze medal, Jesus, I think I could live with that.
Yeah, when you stand back, you begin to
Yeah,
see it all right. Well, I'm tempted to go back again to this thing about the coverage not being an RT, but I'll try to avoid that. There's an article in today's Irish Times, and it says that it lists the things that cost less now than they did, say, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and they list the things that cost more. And I found it really interesting. For example, TV. We get you have to pay to buy a TV, but
yeah,
you can watch programs for nothing. But very few people do.
yeah,
Any number of people now have, like you and me, have Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple, Now TV. So nearly everyone has opted for this optional add-on. So in
yeah,
fact, in practice, watching TV is now a more expensive business than it once was. And there was a time not long ago, I certainly would have been in revolt. What, you're asking me not only to pay my license fee, but to pay for actual other programs?
yeah,
I've said no chance. But no, I've learned to see the advantages of having Netflix and some other things.
yeah.
But it's an odd way, isn't it, that it has reversed, that you can have it for free, but we're suddenly going to add on extra stuff and people buy it.
Yeah. But Jude, in fact, I'm reluctant to say the word Alexa because I'll probably start playing in the background. There's Alexa, there's Spotify, your Netflix. I don't know many other things in this house, and then of course your phones. You're watching TV. You're playing all sorts of stuff and paying for them. But the other thing about it, Jude, I remember we have a lot of friends in Australia. And we used to have to ring them, knowing the landline. And by geez, Jude, you were very reluctant to do it because the next time you got a phone bill, it was through the roof.
Yeah.
But they used to say, no. When we'd ring them, they'd say, no, we'll ring you back because we can do it for free. And we were going, what's this about? But you know that all that thing now, you can do WhatsApp, that's free. You can do all these different things. So there's something, I don't, Jude, by the way, I didn't get a chance to look at that. What's cheaper nowadays? And did you notice what's cheaper nowadays?
Well, I'll tell you what's cheaper. This is cheaper.
Yeah.
We're not paying a red cent for our conversations twice a week. You know, there was a time people said, "My God Almighty!" You know, if you were talking on the phone, it would cost you. And you're saying you're talking to this guy face to face, and you can see a film of him, and it doesn't cost anything. Now, of course, it is true that if you go to the next level and want an extended broadcast and so on, you'll have to pay. But the fact is, it's free. WhatsApp is free, Skype is free, FaceTime is free. There's any number of things that are freer.
Is there any food or drink that's cheaper?
Well, I think food generally, I'm a fair idea that they said that food generally was cheaper than it had been. In fact, if you ask farmers, they'll tell you that they're far too cheap. And that they're the ones that are paying for it. But they list things that surprised me in terms of costing more. For example, roads cost you more. Cost you more in Ireland, in the south particularly, to ride along a road. And at one time, people would have said, "What? I'm going to go from Belfast to Dublin, and you're going to charge me?"
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of the road, and you suddenly have to stop and pay this guy money. You must be crackers. And people in Dublin would go through that M50 thing maybe a couple of times a day.
But hold on, can I cut across there, Jude? The guy who did the deal with the government for the M50 must be sitting somewhere like Rio de Janeiro with a penthouse apartment, smoking cigars that cost probably $50 each or something, with champagne on top, because it's about the best deal in history. Every time a car goes through that, what is it, 250 or 350, and there's about maybe 20,000, 30,000 going through every hour, and and as far as I know, what do you call it? A private company has still got a significant holding in that, which is, unless it's changed now. I'm open to correction.
No, I think you're right.
At one stage, it was like talk about coining it.
Yeah, but you see, you have to admit, Pat, that these guys, it was a financial venture in their part. Though that M50 must have been a hugely expensive job to build.
Yeah, it was something like
First
500
place.
million or something at the
So
time.
I'm sure they knew they were on a good
I'd say
thing.
they'd make that back in a year now.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, at the same time, they had to put the money down in the first instance to build the road. So, in a way, I'd have to say, well, that's the way capitalism works. But roads is one. Another one that used to really irk me was air. You pay for the air. Now, I'm not talking about the air you breathe. I'm talking about the air you put in your car.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And
It
when
used
you
to be
went to
free.
garage, this time I used to give out stink. I would say, geez, I went and I put on petrol, and then I went to get the air. They were charging me for it, put air into my tires. But that's everywhere now. If you're going to put air in your tires, you're going to have to pay 10 or 50 or whatever it is. So there's things that, we thought would never be. You have to pay more for lodging a check.
Yeah,
That charges you now for having your money with them. And meanwhile, while your money rests with them, while your money is resting in that account,
yes,
that's fine.
At
the same time, they're taking that money and they're making money on it because they're getting interest in it or investing in it or whatever. I'm looking at the time here, Pat. Oh, we're another 5 minutes. So that's something that's changed as well.
And of course, when you were talking about there, I remember you used to be able to park in a hospital or a public building for free. Now you frequently find that you have to pay. There's a cash machine there.
But sure, there was a time when we used to be able to drive into a city or a town and park your car. And there wasn't even, you just parked the bloody car. You didn't plan in front of somebody's doorway or anything, but you just parked the car. And that even applied to Dublin. My God, that's not the case anymore. Everywhere charges you, no matter who you are or where you are, you're going to be charged. And if you don't, and they come along and get you, they're going to whack you for about 60 quid. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So would you say, Pat, looking back now, or would you say life as I know it is better in the present or not as good as it was in the past?
Jude, I think in many ways it's better nowadays. I really genuinely do. Now, there's certain things.
Do you like being old, do you?
No, I don't like being old, but there's a better quality of life in many ways now than there was. Dude, it was very uneven and unfair, and there was a lot of inequality. Now, I'm not saying for a second that's resolved, far from it. But Jude, me and you can sit and chat here today. Technology is so much better. I can chat to my friends in Australia. I can go and we're not rich, but our lives of so much. Put it this, I've had a far better standard of life than my parents, and they worked a hell of a lot harder than I had.
For sure. So I suppose we should be grateful for these small mercies, not small mercies, like the very big mercies that we have. Okay, we've only a few minutes. Is it worth talking about it? There's 2 articles in the Irish Times this morning, both of them attacking Sinn Féin.
That's a early
what else is new? That's not news, really. What they're saying is that, one of the things they said, one of the articles said, maybe it was Gerard Howland or maybe it was somebody else, Harry McGee, they said that Sinn Féin in 2020 went big on the whole question of
water charges. Was it?
Yes, water charges. That's right. I don't remember Sinn Féin as being particularly at the centre of that. I know they would have supported it, but the guys who made the running with that were the left-wing individuals, the people before profit, etc. Although they mightn't have been called that then. But I didn't realise. Have I got it wrong?
You've got it wrong, Jude. After as the Spanish called it, El Crisis, after the big financial crisis, at about what do you call the big guy from Enda bollocks? I can't remember his name. The Tisha from
Enda Kenny.
Enda Kenny. His name Enda Mulligan was going through my head. I must know an Enda Mulligan.
We put our 2 heads together, Pat, would make a foot.
Well, it'd be really good.
2 half-wits.
Talk about senior moments this morning. But anyway, Enda Kenny, his government came up with all sorts of wonderful wheezes to take money, all sorts of service charges, universal social tax. They were bringing in charges for this, charges for schools, charges for everything. Anyway, bottom line, they were bringing in water charges, they're putting in meters, and they're going. There was a massive uprising from the ground up. Now, I went to several protest meetings in Letterkenny, and they were definitely organised by Sinn Féin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the government, for the first time ever, both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, realised this is serious. People here they're saying we're on an island. Even in bloody well Fermanagh, there's 365 lakes. Why are we paying for water?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think it's glorious that they made the politicians stand down, as it were.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you the truth at the same time. And I've lived in countries like when I was living in Canada, you paid for your water. And if you used the sprinkler on your lawn, as most people did, I used ours sparingly, I'll tell you, because I was aware of the fact. I did a house swap with a guy in California one summer, and I remember him contacting me and saying, use the water sparingly because, it might be plentiful in Ireland. It's not plentiful in California. And if you take somewhere like Arizona, like that, Phoenix, Arizona is built on a place where there is no water. It has to be pumped into, So how did we get talking about the water? Oh, that water
because
charges.
that was
Sinn Féin.
Sinn Féin.
Okay.
Sinn Féin rules the province on the water charges debate.
Okay, we have about 5 seconds. Do you think that the press in the South are still anti-Sinn Féin?
Without question. Absolutely. It's open and shut case. It's not me saying it. Just read them.
Okay, take a word for it. Okay, Pat. On that note, we will end this meeting. Go forth and
peace.
praise the Lord.
Bye, Jude.
Okay, Pat. All the best.